The date is January 29th, 1945. It is nearly 3 o'clock in the afternoon in Holzheim, Belgium. The air is biting cold, and the ground is covered in deep snow. First Sergeant Leonard Funk walks around the corner of a farmhouse. He stops dead in his tracks. In front of him are 90 German soldiers. They are staring right at him. Half of them are already holding weapons. The other half are scrambling to pick up rifles from a pile on the frozen ground. Just 20 minutes ago, these men were prisoners. They had been captured by Funk's company during a brutal assault on the village. They were being guarded by 4 American GIs, all the men that could be spared in the chaos of battle. But the tables have turned. A German patrol has slipped through the lines and freed them. Now they are rearmed, they are organizing, and they are preparing to attack the American company from the rear. A German officer steps forward. He spots the stripes on Funk's sleeve. He shoves the barrel of an MP-40 submachine gun hard into Funk's stomach. He screams a command in German. Funk does not speak German. Neither do any of the captured Americans kneeling in the snow. The officer screams again. His face turns red with strain. The veins in his neck bulge. He is demanding surrender. Leonard Funk looks at the 90 enemy soldiers. He looks at his 4 disarmed men. He looks at the submachine gun pressed against his gut. And then Leonard Funk starts to laugh. It is not a chuckle. It is a hard, loud laugh. The German officer's face twists in confusion and then into pure rage. He screams louder. Funk just laughs harder. What happens in the next 60 seconds will result in the deaths of 21 men. It will become one of the most remarkable acts of individual combat in the history of the United States Army. It will earn Leonard Funk the Medal of Honor. But to understand why a man laughs in the face of death, we have to understand where he came from. Leonard Alfred Funk Jr. was born on August 27, 1916, in Braddock Township, Pennsylvania. This was steel country. It was a place where smokestacks lined the Monongahela River, and the air smelled of sulfur and ash. It was a hard place that produced hard people. Funk grew up fast. He graduated high school in 1934, right in the thick of the Great Depression. For millions of Americans, the 1930s were not just a time of poverty. They were a test of character. Jobs were scarce. College was a fantasy for a steelworker's son. Funk learned responsibility early, helping to care for his younger brother while the economy crumbled around them. This era defined a generation. It taught them that nothing was given. Everything had to be earned. It taught them to endure. By June 1941, war was raging across Europe and Asia. The United States was not yet in the fight, but everyone knew it was coming. Congress extended the draft. Funk's number came up. He reported to the induction center in Wilkinsburg, Pennsylvania. He did not look like a warrior. He was 24 years old. He stood only 5 feet, 5 inches tall. He weighed 140 pounds soaking wet. The Army physical examiners took one look at him and likely marked him down for clerk duty. They saw a small, quiet man suited for a desk. They were wrong. Leonard Funk didn't want a desk. He volunteered for the paratroopers. To understand how bold this choice was, we must look at the military history of 1941. The American airborne forces barely existed. The concept of vertical envelopment, dropping soldiers from the sky behind enemy lines, was brand new. It was experimental. To the average infantryman, it sounded like suicide. You were expected to jump out of a perfectly good airplane, land surrounded by the enemy, and fight without heavy weapons or support. The men who volunteered for this duty were a different breed. They had to be. Airborne training was designed to break a man. It was 5 weeks of calculated misery. There was endless running, jumping, and climbing. The physical conditioning was brutal, designed to weed out anyone who hesitated. Half the candidates washed out. They packed their bags and went back to the regular infantry. Funk did not wash out. He survived the physical thrashing. He survived the jump towers. Then came the aircraft. The first time a trooper steps to the door of a C-47 transport plane at 1,200 feet, every instinct in the human body screams no. The wind tears at your face. The ground looks like a patchwork quilt miles below. Your life depends on fabric, cord, and faith. Funk jumped. He earned his silver wings. He was assigned to Company C, 1st Battalion, 508th Parachute Infantry Regiment. They shipped out to England in late 1943 to prepare for the invasion of Europe. There, they joined the 82nd Airborne Division. They called themselves the All-Americans. The 82nd was already legendary. Its veterans had fought in the dust of Sicily and the mountains of Italy. They had already killed enemy soldiers and watched their friends die. Funk was the new guy. At 27, he was considered ancient by paratrooper standards. Most of the men in his squad were barely 20 years old. They were kids, full of adrenaline and nerves. Funk was different. He had the maturity of a man who had lived through the Depression. He possessed a quiet steadiness. He wasn't the loudest man in the room, but he was the one you looked at when things went wrong. He had a quality that cannot be taught in boot camp: competence. It is the kind of calm authority that makes men follow you into hell. And hell was exactly where they were going. As the spring of 1944 turned toward summer, the 508th Regiment began final preparations for the greatest military operation in history. They were going to Normandy. By D-Day, Funk had been promoted to squad leader. He checked his gear. He checked his men. He was ready. But no amount of training could truly prepare them for what was waiting in the dark skies over France. June 6, 1944, 1:30 a.m. over the coast of France. The C-47 Skytrain shudders violently. Outside, the night sky is alive with lethal light. German anti-aircraft fire, known as flak, explodes around the formation. Tracers arc through the darkness like angry fireflies. Inside the plane, the men can hear the terrifying sound of shrapnel pinging off the thin metal fuselage. Leonard Funk stands in the stick, the line of paratroopers waiting to jump. He is weighed down by 60 pounds of equipment strapped to his small frame. He carries an M1A1 Thompson submachine gun, ammunition, grenades, rations, and a medical kit. He is a walking arsenal. The aircraft is flying at 400 feet. This is dangerously low. A safe jump usually requires at least double that altitude to allow the parachute to fully deploy and slow the descent. But the pilots cannot climb. The German fire is too intense. To survive, they have to fly low and fast. The invasion of Normandy involves 13,000 paratroopers from the 82nd and 101st Airborne Divisions. Their mission is critical: land behind the beaches, secure the causeways, and stop German reinforcements from reaching the coast. If they fail, the men hitting the beaches at dawn might be pushed back into the sea. But nothing goes according to plan. The green light by the door flicks on. Funk jumps. The prop blast hits him like a physical blow, tossing him into the slipstream. Then the chute cracks open. For a brief moment, the roar of the engines fades, replaced by the chaotic noise of battle below. The airborne operation on D-Day is a disaster of navigation. Heavy cloud cover and intense enemy fire have scattered the flight formations. Paratroopers are dropped across 50 miles of the French countryside, often miles from their intended drop zones. Men land in flooded fields and drown under the weight of their own gear. Others drift into the middle of German garrisons and are killed before they can cut themselves free from their harnesses. Funk hits the ground hard. On impact, his ankle twists violently. It is a severe sprain, perhaps even a fracture. The pain is immediate and blinding. In a normal life, an injury like this means a cast and weeks of bed rest. In Normandy, it simply means you have to grit your teeth. Every step Funk takes for the next 2 weeks will be agony, but he can walk and he can shoot. That is all that matters. He gathers his chute and buries it. He checks his compass. He is 40 miles from his drop zone. He is deep in German-held territory, alone in the dark. This is the moment that separates the soldier from the civilian. Panic is the natural reaction, but Funk gets to work. Within hours, he begins to find other lost souls in the hedgerows. He collects a group of stragglers, men from different companies and different regiments, all separated from their units. Eventually, he has 18 men. They are lost, confused, and looking for someone to tell them what to do. Funk takes command. For 10 days, Sergeant Funk leads this ragtag group through occupied France. They travel by night and hide by day. He insists on walking point, serving as the lead scout despite his ruined ankle. He puts himself in the most dangerous position to protect the men following him. When they finally link up with Allied forces on June 17th, every single man in his group is alive. He brings them all home. For this, he earns the Silver Star, the military's third highest combat decoration. He also receives the Purple Heart for his injury. Most men would call that a war. Leonard Funk is just getting started. By September 1944, the Allies are pushing toward the German border. The mood is optimistic. There is talk that the war could be over by Christmas. To finish the job, British Field Marshal Bernard Montgomery devises a daring plan: Operation Market Garden. It is the largest airborne assault in history. 35,000 paratroopers, British, American, and Polish, will drop into the Netherlands. Their job is to capture a series of key bridges across the Rhine River. It is a 64-mile carpet of airborne troops designed to pave the way for British tanks to roll straight into the heart of Germany. It is ambitious. Historians arguably call it reckless. Everything depends on speed and surprise. On September 17th, Funk jumps into Holland. His unit, the 508, is operating near Nijmegen. Their objective is to support the capture of the bridges. At first, the mission seems to go well, but the Germans are not beaten yet. After securing his initial objective, Funk notices a deadly problem. A wave of Allied gliders is approaching the landing zone. These silent aircraft are towed behind bombers and released to glide down to Earth. They carry the heavy equipment paratroopers cannot jump with: jeeps, artillery, ammunition, and reinforcements. But down on the ground, 3 German 20mm anti-aircraft guns are tracking them. These are flak cannons designed to shred airplanes. Against the canvas skin of a glider, they are devastating. If those guns open fire, hundreds of American soldiers will be slaughtered before they even touch the grass. The German position is dug in on the high ground near the town of Vauxhall. It is a textbook defensive setup: camouflage, sandbags, and interlocking fields of fire. There are approximately 20 German soldiers manning the guns. Funk looks around. He has only 2 soldiers with him. Military doctrine is essentially a game of math. The rule of thumb is that an attacking force needs a 3-to-1 advantage to successfully storm a prepared defensive position. You need 3 men to dislodge 1 defender. Leonard Funk faces the opposite. He is outnumbered nearly 7-to-1. He has no radio support. He has no mortars. He has no time to wait for reinforcements. He attacks anyway. Leading from the front, Funk and his tiny patrol assault the German hill. It is a blur of violence and aggression. They catch the Germans by surprise, moving so fast and firing so accurately that the enemy assumes they are facing a much larger force. Funk and his 2 men kill the security detachment and storm the gun pits. They neutralize all 3 anti-aircraft weapons. By the time the smoke clears, the German position is silent. The Allied gliders land safely in the fields beyond. For this action, Leonard Funk is awarded the Distinguished Service Cross, DSC, the second highest decoration for valor in the United States Army. It is 1 step below the Medal of Honor. Leonard Funk now wears the Silver Star and the DSC. He is one of the most decorated paratroopers in the European theater. He has survived the chaos of Normandy and the meat grinder of Holland. He has proven he is a hero. But the war is about to take a darker, colder turn. It is December 1944. The Allied advance has stalled. The armies settle in for winter along the German border. The troops are exhausted. Supplies are running low. The intelligence officers believe the German army is broken, incapable of mounting another major offensive. They are fatally wrong. On December 16th, Adolf Hitler plays his final card. He launches a massive, desperate surprise attack through the dense Ardennes forest. 3 German armies, 400,000 men, and 1,400 tanks smash into the thinly held American lines. This is the Battle of the Bulge. It will be the largest and bloodiest battle the American Army fights in World War II. The weather is apocalyptic. Temperatures drop to 5 degrees below zero. Snowstorms ground the Allied Air Force, stripping the Americans of their greatest advantage. Men freeze to death in their foxholes. Rifles jam in the ice. But it is not just the cold that the soldiers have to fear. A new kind of savagery is about to be unleashed. On December 17th, 1 day into the offensive, a convoy of American trucks is intercepted by an SS armored column near the town of Malmedy. The Americans are artillery observers and support troops, rear echelon soldiers not equipped to fight tanks. Outgunned and surrounded, 113 Americans surrender. In the wars of the past, surrender meant safety. It was part of the grim professional code between soldiers. You fight until you can't. You drop your weapon and you become a prisoner. But at Malmedy, the rules of war are erased. The SS troopers herd the American prisoners into a farmer's field. They disarm them. They wait. And then they open fire. The machine guns roar. The American prisoners fall in rows. Those who try to run are cut down. Those who lie wounded in the snow are finished off with pistol shots to the head. 84 Americans die in that field. It is a massacre, but a few survive. They lie still in the freezing mud, playing dead while German boots walk past them. They listen to the SS soldiers laughing. When darkness finally falls, 43 survivors crawl out of the carnage and make it back to American lines. The news of the Malmedy massacre spreads through the ranks like a virus. Before this moment, the war in Western Europe had operated on unwritten rules. There was a grim professionalism between enemies. You fought hard, but if a man threw up his hands, you respected his life. The Geneva Convention was more than just paper. It was a safety net. After Malmedy, the net is gone. The rules of civilized warfare evaporate overnight. American soldiers swear they will never surrender to the SS. Some units pass down quiet orders. Take no SS prisoners. The war becomes personal. It becomes vicious. When Leonard Funk hears about the massacre, something hardens inside him. He has seen friends die in Normandy and Holland. He knows the cost of war, but this is different. This is cold-blooded murder. It is a betrayal of the soldier's code. Funk makes a private decision. It is a promise to himself that will dictate his future. He decides that he will never surrender to the German army. No matter the odds, no matter the situation, he will not put his life in the hands of men who shoot prisoners. That decision will be tested very soon. It is January 29, 1945. The Battle of the Bulge is officially ending. The German offensive has been broken, and the Allies are pushing back into the Ardennes. But the fighting is far from over. Funk's unit, Company C of the 508th Parachute Infantry, receives orders to capture the Belgian village of Holzheim. It is a critical objective, a stepping stone for the advance into Germany. But there is a major problem. Company C is shattered. Weeks of winter combat have depleted their ranks. The company executive officer, the second in command, has been killed. They simply do not have enough riflemen to mount an assault. Funk is now the acting executive officer. He looks at the roster. It is too short. He looks at the mission. It cannot be delayed. This is where the leadership of a seasoned first sergeant shines. Funk walks into the company headquarters tent. Inside are the support staff, clerks, supply personnel, and cooks. These are men who handle paperwork and potatoes, not machine guns. They are rear echelon troops who usually stay miles away from the front line. "You're all infantry now," Funk tells them. "Grab your weapons. We're taking that village." He forms a makeshift platoon of 30 men. Most of them have not fired a rifle since basic training. They are terrified. They are inexperienced. But Funk does not care. He needs bodies, and he trusts his ability to lead them. He will turn these clerks into warriors through sheer force of will. The march to Holzheim is a nightmare. They trek 15 miles through waist-deep snow in a driving blizzard. The temperature is well below freezing. German artillery shells explode on their flanks, throwing up geysers of black earth and white snow. Funk leads from the front. He pushes his makeshift platoon forward, step by agonizing step. When they finally reach Holzheim, Funk organizes the assault. He leads his clerks and cooks into the village. They move house to house, room to room. It is close quarters combat. There are Germans in every building, snipers in windows, machine guns in cellars. Against all expectations, Funk's ragtag group succeeds. They clear 15 houses. They silence the machine guns. They take the village. In the process, they capture 30 German soldiers without suffering a single American casualty. Another American unit on the far side of town captures 50 more. The prisoners are corralled together in the courtyard of a large farmhouse. There are now 80 German prisoners standing in the snow. Funk looks at his men. They are exhausted. They have been marching and fighting for hours in the bitter cold. There is still resistance in other parts of the village. Scattered German units that have not yet surrendered. Funk needs every available gun on the line to finish the job. He makes a calculated risk. He assigns only 4 men to guard the 80 prisoners. "Keep them here," he orders the guards. "We'll send reinforcements when we can." Funk turns his back on the farmhouse and heads back into the village to continue the fight. He has no way of knowing that he has just walked away from a ticking bomb. While Funk is busy clearing the rest of Holzheim, a German patrol moves silently through the outskirts of the village. There are roughly 10 to 20 of them. They are wearing white camouflage capes over their uniforms. In the swirling snow and confusion of battle, they are almost invisible. To a tired eye, they look just like American troops in winter gear. The 4 American guards at the farmhouse do not realize the danger until it is too late. The German patrol emerges from the whiteout like ghosts. They overwhelm the guards before a shot can be fired. They force the Americans to their knees. Then they free the prisoners. In seconds, the situation flips. The 80 German captives are armed with weapons grabbed from the pile on the ground. Reinforced by the patrol that freed them, there are now nearly 90 armed German soldiers in the courtyard. They organize quickly. They know exactly what to do. They will not just escape. They will attack Company C from the rear. Funk's company is scattered across the village, hunting down stragglers. They are facing outward, away from the farmhouse. If 90 Germans hit them from behind, it will be a massacre. The entire company could be wiped out. A German officer begins barking orders. He positions machine guns. He sets up an ambush. He prepares his men to slaughter the Americans. And that is when Leonard Funk walks back around the corner. He has come back to check on the prisoners. It is a routine check. He expects to see his 4 guards standing watch over a group of defeated men. Instead, he rounds the corner of the farmhouse and freezes. The scene before him is surreal. His 4 guards are on their knees in the snow, hands behind their heads. The prisoners are standing tall, rifles in their hands, ready for battle. Funk is alone. He is 5 feet from the enemy, and 90 German soldiers turn to look at him. The German officer spots Funk immediately. The first sergeant stripes on his sleeve mark him as a leader, a prize to be captured. The officer strides forward. He shoves the barrel of his MP-40 submachine gun hard into Funk's stomach. He screams a command in German. "Surrender! Drop your weapon!" Except Funk does not speak German. He has no idea what the officer is saying, though the meaning is clear enough. The gun is pressing against his gut. The officer screams again, louder this time. His face is red, the veins in his neck bulging with adrenaline. Funk looks around. He does the math. There are 90 German soldiers. Half of them are armed. His 4 guards are disarmed and helpless on the ground. He is alone. The mathematics of survival are 0. There is no scenario where Leonard Funk wins this fight. He is outnumbered 90 to 1. The sensible thing, the rational thing, is to put his hands up. But Leonard Funk is not thinking about the math. He is thinking about Malmedy. He remembers the stories of 84 Americans murdered in a field, shot like animals, and left to freeze. He has already made his choice. He will never surrender to the German army. So, instead of complying, Leonard Funk does something inexplicable. He starts laughing. It begins as a chuckle, then grows into a loud, shaking laugh. Nobody knows exactly why Funk laughed in that moment. Perhaps it was a brilliant tactical ruse, a deliberate move to confuse the enemy. Perhaps it was stress, the human brain snapping under the weight of certain death. Or maybe it was genuine amusement at the absurdity of it all. An officer screaming orders in a language Funk couldn't understand, expecting him to follow rules that no longer existed. Whatever the reason, the effect is devastating. The German officer is completely thrown off. This is not how prisoners behave. Prisoners beg. Prisoners plead. Prisoners shake with fear. They do not stand there laughing while a gun is shoved into their stomach. For a few critical seconds, the German officer hesitates. He is confused, and Leonard Funk uses those seconds. Still appearing to laugh, Funk slowly reaches up toward his Thompson submachine gun. It is slung over his shoulder in the standard carrying position. The German officer watches him. He thinks this is it. He thinks the American is finally surrendering his weapon. He relaxes slightly. He is about to have another prisoner to add to his collection. Funk's hand closes around the pistol grip of the Thompson. He begins to unsling it, slowly, carefully, non-threateningly. Then, the laugh stops. In one motion, faster than thought, Funk swings the Thompson down. He brings the muzzle into line with the officer's chest. He squeezes the trigger. The M1A1 Thompson fires 45 caliber rounds at a rate of 600 per minute. At point-blank range, it is not just a gun. It is a force of nature. The bullets hit like sledgehammers. The first burst catches the German officer in the chest. 30 rounds leave the barrel in less than 3 seconds. The officer is dead before he hits the ground. Funk does not stop. He cannot stop. The moment he pulled the trigger, he committed himself to a simple, brutal reality. Kill everyone, or die. He pivots, still holding the trigger down. The Thompson sprays an arc of lead across the German soldiers standing nearest to him. Men scream, men fall. The white snow is instantly stained with red. Brass casings tumble through the air, steaming in the freezing cold. The magazine runs dry. The bolt locks back. Click. 30 rounds gone in seconds. This is the most dangerous moment. A Thompson takes about 2 seconds to reload if you are practiced. In a firefight, 2 seconds is an eternity. It is enough time for 90 Germans to return fire. But Funk moves on muscle memory. Thousands of hours of training take over. He yanks the empty magazine out. He slams a fresh 30-round stick in. He racks the bolt. He keeps shooting. The whole sequence takes less than a heartbeat. At the same time, he is screaming at his men on the ground. "Pick up your weapons! Pick up your weapons!" The 4 guards, stunned by the sudden violence, scramble into action. They grab the rifles dropped by the dead Germans. Seconds ago, they were prisoners waiting to die. Now, they are fighting for their lives. The Germans are in total chaos. Their officer is dead. The American who was laughing is now mowing them down like a scythe. Nobody gave orders for this. Nobody knows what to do. Some of the Germans try to shoot back. Bullets crack past Funk's head. One round kills the American soldier standing closest to him. But the momentum has shifted. The surprise is too great. Funk keeps firing. He keeps moving. He is a one-man army. His guards join the fight, pouring fire into the confused mass of enemy troops. The Germans are caught in a crossfire they never expected. The entire engagement lasts less than 60 seconds. When the shooting stops, the silence that follows is heavy. Smoke rises from the barrel of Funk's Thompson. 21 German soldiers lie dead in the snow. 24 more are wounded, groaning on the ground. The rest, more than 40 men, have thrown down their weapons and raised their hands. The prisoners are prisoners again. Leonard Funk stands in the middle of the carnage. He is breathing hard. He looks at his exhausted men, then at the bodies surrounding them. He lowers his gun. "That," he says to his men, "was the stupidest thing I've ever seen." The aftermath is almost anticlimactic. Company C secures the rest of Holzheim. The captured Germans, the survivors anyway, are marched to the rear. This time, they are under much heavier guard. Funk reports the incident to his commanding officer. He treats it like just another firefight, just another day in the war. He doesn't brag. He doesn't ask for a medal. He goes back to work. But a story like this cannot be kept quiet. It spreads through the regiment, then through the division, then through the entire army. The story of the sergeant who laughed at 90 Germans and killed them with a Tommy gun becomes a legend. When the recommendation for the Medal of Honor reaches Washington, nobody questions it. The facts are beyond dispute. The witnesses confirm every detail. The official citation reads like an action movie script. It states, "He was ordered to surrender by a German officer who pushed a machine pistol into his stomach." Although overwhelmingly outnumbered and facing almost certain death, First Sergeant Funk, pretending to comply with the order, began slowly to unsling his submachine gun, and then with lightning motion brought the muzzle into line and riddled the German officer. It continues. He turned upon the other Germans, firing and shouting to the other Americans to seize the enemy's weapons. Leonard Funk had done the impossible. He had rewritten the math of combat. On September 5th, 1945, the war is over. Leonard Funk stands in the White House. President Harry S. Truman places the Medal of Honor around his neck. Truman a man who had seen combat himself in World War I, looks at the short, quiet paratrooper. He shakes Funk's hand and says the words that will be quoted for decades. "I would rather have this medal," Truman says, "than be President of the United States." Let us look at the full measure of the man standing before the president. Leonard Funk did not just survive the war, he mastered it. His uniform tells a story that is almost impossible to believe. He wears the Medal of Honor for Holzheim. He wears the Distinguished Service Cross for the anti-aircraft guns in Holland. He wears the Silver Star for leading 18 lost men through 40 miles of enemy territory in Normandy. He also holds the Bronze Star for meritorious service and 3 Purple Hearts, representing 3 separate times he bled for his country. On top of that, he wears the foreign awards: the Croix de Guerre from France, the Order of Leopold from Belgium, and the Military Order of William from the Netherlands, the Dutch equivalent of the Victoria Cross. Leonard Funk is the most decorated paratrooper of World War II. He is 5 feet, 5 inches tall. He weighs 140 pounds. He was a store clerk before the war, and now he is a legend. But what happens when the legend comes home? In 1945, the guns fall silent. The parades end. The uniform comes off. Many war heroes struggle to find their place in a peaceful world. Some, like Audie Murphy, go to Hollywood. They turn their fame into a career, playing themselves in movies. They write books. They give speeches. Leonard Funk does none of these things. He returns to Pennsylvania. He puts his medals in a case. He does not seek office. He does not cash in. Instead, he gets a job with the Veterans Administration, VA. It is a poetic choice. The VA is a massive bureaucracy, a sea of paperwork and red tape designed to help America's former soldiers. It is the unglamorous, frustrating, essential work of processing disability claims and ensuring that men who gave everything get what they are owed. It is the same kind of clerk work Funk did before the war. But now, it has a purpose. The man who led soldiers through the snow of the Ardennes spends the next 27 years leading veterans through the maze of government paperwork. He rises through the ranks, eventually becoming the division chief of the Pittsburgh Regional Office. It is a quiet life of service. He marries his wife, Gertrude. They have 2 daughters. They live in McKeesport, a working-class town not far from where he grew up. He goes to work. He comes home. He mows the lawn. He never talks about the war. When neighbors or co-workers ask about Holzheim, about the laughing, about the 90 Germans, he just shrugs. "I did what I had to do," he says. And that is all he says. On November 20th, 1992, Leonard Alfred Funk Jr. passes away at the age of 76. He is buried at Arlington National Cemetery in Section 35, grave 23,734. He lies among the generals and the privates, the heroes of every American war. At the time of his death, he is the last surviving Medal of Honor, recipient from the 82nd Airborne Division in World War II. Today, there are small monuments to his memory. A fitness center at Fort Liberty, formerly Fort Bragg, is named after him. A highway in Pennsylvania bears his name. As recently as 2023, a post office in McKeesport was dedicated to him. But the truth is, most Americans have never heard of Leonard Funk. They know the names of the famous generals, Patton, Eisenhower, MacArthur. They know the famous fighters like Sergeant York. They do not know the short, quiet paratrooper who laughed in the face of death. Perhaps that is how it should be. Leonard Funk represents the ultimate ideal of the citizen soldier. He was an ordinary man who was called to do extraordinary things, did them without complaint, and then quietly returned to being an ordinary man. His story teaches us something profound about the nature of courage. War does not favor the big. It does not favor the loud. It favors the mind that keeps working when everyone else has frozen. At Holzheim, Leonard Funk had every reason to surrender. The situation was hopeless. The gun was in his stomach, but he refused to accept the reality that was presented to him. He remembered Malmedy. He remembered his duty to his men. So he laughed. Maybe it was a tactic, maybe it was stress. But that laugh bought him time. And in the brutality of combat, time is the only thing that matters. President Truman was right when he stood in the Rose Garden on that September day in 1945. The power of a president is vast. He commands armies and navies. He can reshape the global order. But he cannot manufacture the kind of raw, primal courage it takes to face 90 men alone. Truman looked at the former store clerk from Pennsylvania and said, "I would rather have this medal than be President of the United States." It was an admission of respect from the most powerful man in the world to a man who possessed a power that cannot be granted by any election, the power to stand alone, the power to laugh at the impossible, and the power to win.